So I've been an entrepreneur. I had my first entrepreneurial experience online in 2015 to 2016, around that time. And I have been working now full time for myself for the past 3 to 4 years. And the past 3 to 4 years from now have been the most painful, the most crazy, and just out of this world experience for this pretty much the entire time. But I would not trade that or give that back for anything in the world. The thing is that there's something that just plagues entrepreneurs, or something that plagues pretty much everybody. And it's that idea of fear. And it's that fear of failure, that fear of failing, of taking a risk and it not working out, or losing some money. That was my biggest struggle my first year. It was all about money, all about making money, losing money. And by now, I mean, my team has made $1 million. We've lost $1 million. We've worked in our homes, and we've worked in an office, and we've worked in 3 different basements. I don't know if you can even imagine, or if you've had that experience of having to do so much, yet having to ask someone to help and see if somebody is willing to let you work in their basement. I'll tell you what, it's a humbling experience that I never thought I would have to experience. But over this entire time of literally having failure after failure after failure after failure has taught me, number one, we all know the statistic about how, 7, 8, 9 out of 10 businesses fail in their first 5 to 10 years. I'm a firm believer now that I don't believe that's just because the businesses suck or because they're bad businesses. But I think a big part of it is that entrepreneurs and business owners are not willing to deal with the absolute dog crap that is thrown in your face every day. They're not willing to weed and wade through just the garbage that you have to deal with in order to make the wins. They're not celebrating the wins. They're celebrating the wins, but they're not celebrating the failures. They're not sitting there and thinking about what they've learned from that experience. What I learned after thinking about money for a solid year, 2 years, and being stressed about it all the time, having 2 kids and a wife, having to take care of them, and sitting there every day thinking about money and being just incredibly stressed out by that. It's because I was not, it's a big regret of mine, because I did not value the experience I was actually going through. I did not value the idea that I was taking risks that so many people are not willing to take. And I wasn't learning from that experience, but I can look back now and really see the value and experience that I got. What I can tell you right now is the people that make it in 2 to 3 months, that make $1 million or a couple $1 million in 2 to 3 months, it's very short-lived. I've seen it happen over and over and over and over again. Because you will not be truly successful until you fail. So if that's the case, which I truly believe it is, and in my own experience, does it not make more sense to fail as fast as humanly possible? Don't wait 10 years to fail. Don't wait 5 years to fail. Try and fail as much as you can. Obviously, in terms of what you're doing, you're trying to obviously build and grow a business, but you don't want to avoid, the only way to avoid failure is to avoid risk. When you avoid risk, what's the typical investment principle? Higher risk, higher return. I mean, you've already made somewhat of a leap if you're an entrepreneur or a business person by leaving a full-time job, or even if you're at a full-time job, even though there's probably more risk in being in a job. I mean, who's the best person you can bet on? Yourself. If you're working a job right now, you're betting on your employer. Yeah, I don't know where the risk is there, but at the same time, this is something that entrepreneurs deal with daily, and it's something that I've dealt with, and it's something I've dealt with hundreds of times on sales calls. I understand the principle and the idea that sales ultimately comes down to trust, right? You need to build trust in a relationship with that customer. But the reason that you need to do that, nobody ever says why. Why do you have to build trust with that person? Why do you have to build a relationship with them? Because they have fear. They're fearing investing, and they're fearing putting their money with you or with this person over here, or investing this thing in their business, because they're fearing that they might fail, just like you have feared and how I have feared that I might fail a million times. But here's the kicker: you will fail, and you should embrace that every single day that you can, because the people that make it fast and the people that don't fail often are the people that lose. While you've learned so much that you are able to overcome the further crap that comes. Like, do you think that all of the good stuff starts at $1 million, or it starts at $5 million, or it starts at $10 million, or you? No. In fact, it compounds. It gets worse, but at the same time, it gets better because you learn. Now you're learning things at a different, higher level. There is no reason to have fear, especially if you're young like me, 26 years old. I mean, I'm still, I guess, by some people could classify, still a baby. What do I have to fear? What do I have to lose? Because I can lose everything now, and I can make everything that I've already lost back in 2 years. It wouldn't be that hard because I never had that much to begin with. But the whole point of me making this, I know I report a lot on, I like talking about the daily news that's happening in the social world. It's something I like a lot because I think it's something that a lot of people miss, because people aren't evaluating what's happening in the online world enough. They're not evaluating competition. They're not evaluating your enemy. They're not evaluating enemies. I bet you didn't think right now that you have enemies. Well, guess what? You do. Even the people that you don't know. But when you fail, when you have people screw you over, you learn something from that. And guess what? You learn then what your enemies don't know. That's the whole point of it, because it's not about money. It's never been about money. If you still think it is, and if you still think that you're going to fail, and if you're still worried about failing, then stop worrying about success. Because if you're worried about those things, then you're probably not going to get on the other side as well. But it's better to fail. It's better to know your enemies. It's better to understand the mistakes, because the people that made it in 2 months didn't learn enough to deal with the crap that's going to come in a month. And while you're sitting there suffering and they're out there winning and they're out sitting in their Lamborghinis and they're out having a fun time, in 5 years, you're going to be stepping out of your fleet of Lamborghinis because you were able to deal with the garbage and the crap that they weren't able to deal with. You were able to overcome the fear of risk. You were able to invest more than them because you understood money better, because you understood how to invest better, because you had so many bad experiences. Guys, there's a level of confidence that only being an entrepreneur can give you. I thought I had confidence before I started. All of that confidence was just smashed to absolute bits, because the reality is you're probably better than you think you are, but in some ways there's just things you haven't experienced that you might think you better at certain things than you actually are. That comes with evaluating competition, understanding your enemies, and understanding where power actually comes into the play. Power of influence and power to persuade people and power to build a business and grow something. There's, the most important thing, and I'm referencing 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene here a lot, if you didn't understand, but that whole idea of failure is something that should be absolutely and positively embraced. Because the thing is that you're already failing now, and that's a good thing. If you've already made a mistake in the past week, that's a good thing. Because if you feel failure, right? If you need to fail, like I said before, if you need to fail to be successful, and you fear failure, that means that you fear success. You're actually fearing the goal that you want to get to. You're fearing that $1 million. You're fearing that $10 million. You sit there and say, no, that's what I want. No, that's what you fear. Because you're not willing to take the risk, and you're not willing to wade through the garbage and the crap. And if you're talking to a client, that's something that you need to do for them, because they have that certain level of fear, right? You might think that you're working, maybe you're an advertiser and you're working on their Facebook ads, or maybe you're an electrician and you're working on somebody's house, and or maybe you are a financial advisor and you are helping somebody with their portfolio. If they signed up with you, they didn't sign up with you maybe because you were the absolute best one out there, but because you solved their fear. They were able to see their fear, and they were able to look at you, and they were able to say, I'm not scared by working with that person. They're going to fix this problem that I have fear about. And with that, that's how literally everything is driven but it can't be by fear of failure. I have learned to embrace failure. Failure is something because it happens often. I've become a friend of failure and failing just often. And I'm not just talking about big $1 million failures, which have happened to my team. But the idea that we shouldn't let failure control our risk averseness, because then we won't take the risks that we might need to take, and we'll miss the opportunities that we need. We'll miss talking to the people that we need to talk to. We'll miss the travel that we needed to do. We'll miss the opportunities to be together that we should have done. Like, I randomly had to book a 2-hour flight just a couple of weeks ago to go pick up a business partner and then drive 27 hours back to where we are. It was just a random spot of the moment, crazy thing. It costs probably more than it should have, but we had to do that. But it was a risk, right? There was a lot of risk involved there, but we had to do that. And the whole point of me making this video, I know I talk about the news a lot, and I know I talk about all of those things, but while those are all important, part of everything that I do is setting up business infrastructure. Part of that is because I set up the mechanisms that foresee failure. That's literally, that's like part of everything I do. I say, what problems will arise here? And that's part of the 48 Laws of Power. Don't think 5 steps ahead. Here's what I'm telling you. Think 5 problems ahead. Think 5 failures ahead. Here's something that could happen. Here's something bad that happened. Here's something bad that happened over here. This guy over here, I do the same thing as him. How can I avoid that? Or how can I solve that before it happens? That's the whole point of reading a business book, right? You're not just getting the knowledge from it, but you're seeing the failures that they did. They're trying to teach you how to not fail in the same ways that they did. But guess what? You will fail in other ways, because there's probably a trillion other ways that you could fail, because I want to help you embrace that. Because you will never be successful. And I'm not saying $1 million successful or 1 year successful, but long-term successful, right? I talk about this a lot on the channel, mitigating your risk, thinking long-term profitability, because you'll never get to that point if you don't fail in some way, shape, or form. Part of what we do with people is we take on failures, even sometimes together. And that is something, there's a risk involved in literally everything you do every day. You're getting in your car, you're risking your life, which maybe you weren't risking before. But you need to up your level of risk. Everyone's been taught for too long that things are free and that you need to save as much as you possibly can without investing, especially if you're young like me, or even if you're 35, even if you're 45. Your risk averseness should still be high enough that you can invest, that you can fail, and that you can learn. So accept failure, guys, and guess what? Fail fast. Fail as fast as possible, because that's what's going to help you succeed. It's what's going to help you learn. And it's the failure that's going to actually shape you. It's not the wins that are going to shape you. It's the failure that's going to take the confidence you thought you had and mold it into an actual, real business person, entrepreneur, that's going to give you a greater confidence that no other training, that no college, no school, no anything that you can learn can teach you. It transforms you in a way that I can't even truly explain to myself over the past 4 to 5 years. It's something that something I can admit isn't instant for everybody, but it is something that I can say that coming into it, if you have that idea that I don't fear failure, I'm going to take these risks, that's going to help you way more in the long term than it is the person that maybe took a quick risk or a get-rich-quick scheme. They made a lot of money, but then they failed a month later, but they weren't able to deal with it. Millions of dollars get lost every day by people that they weren't able to deal with the fear of the failure that they thought was coming. So embrace failure, try failure, and learn from failure every day, because if you fear failure, you fear success. If you accept failure when it comes, you wade through it, you deal with it, then you also can accept the success that comes along with that. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. It was a little bit different, I know, than what I normally do, but the whole point of this video was to open up a little bit more about what I'm doing, but at the same time, like I said, I invest a lot of my time into looking at what's happening in the industry today, but part of what I do in helping scale businesses and infrastructure is having to deal with all of the things that I just talked about and having to guide businesses through those ups and down hills of failure. And so I just wanted to do something, I mean, that was completely a video that was just off script, that I have nothing in front of me, no script or anything like that. And so I wanted to do something like that. Tell me if you liked this format of video and if you would like me to do more videos like this. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Subscribe and like if you haven't yet. Thank you guys so much. Until next time.